Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And today is a very special day because today we're going to be talking about my favorite X-Men movie of all time and possibly in my top three favorite comic book movies of all time and just one of my personal favorite movies of all time and a very emotional movie. Today we're going to be talking about which once was Hugh Jackman's goodbye to Wolverine. Today we're going to be talking about Logan. Starting off right off with my positives, and one thing that I'm very happy that they did for this movie, and I am very happy they decided to do it for Wolverine's final movie at the time, was I am very happy that this movie ended up being rated R, and what I like hearing is that I believe, if I am correct, is that Hugh Jackman actually took a pay cut just so this movie would get its R rating. I was blown away to hear about that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure why this movie also got its R rating was because of the success of Deadpool, because this movie came out like a year after Deadpool, and that movie was a huge success, and that movie was rated R, and I think because of Deadpool, this movie got its R rating, but that's just what I think, but yeah, the R rating is just beautiful for this movie. And I have always said for years, even when I was a kid, I was like, Wolverine needs to be in an R-rated movie. He needs his own R-rated movie. He needs to be in an R-rated movie. He just needs to because that just fits his character. And this movie alone just shows he works perfectly for a R rating because the violence. I loved hearing Wolverine swear off the top of his lungs. Like, sure, that's a weird thing to hear. Why is my nose so itchy? God, I know that's like a weird thing to say. Excuse me, though. I know that's weird to say, but it's just like that just fits perfectly with Wolverine. Just seeing him just go fucking berserk, just hearing him swear at people, just hear him just like act like he would in like the normal world when you kind of think about it. It's just I love that, especially from just the opening scene. It just shows you how fucked up this movie is and just how much they push the R rating with this one because it is brutal. Just from the opening scene when they're trying to like steal his tires or whatever they were trying to steal, and he's just like fighting them and he cuts this one dude's arm off. And especially at the very end when he's just fucking people up and when he unfortunately meets his end. I love that. I am so happy to see that he got his R-rated movie, and that's why I'm very excited to see him show up in Deadpool Wolverine is because of the R rating. I am so excited to see how violent Wolverine is going to be in that movie. And like I said, this once was Hugh Jackman's goodbye to Logan or Wolverine. This was supposedly supposed to be his final hurrah as this character until Deadpool and Wolverine, and if this was his last performance, which was for like 6 years, this was the perfect performance by him. To where I honestly believe he was robbed at the Oscars for not even being nominated because this is his best performance I have ever seen from this guy, alongside with The Prestige. This guy's performance in this movie is just so fucking amazing and so magical to see him hang up the claws from this character after 17 years of being with him, which is just absolutely amazing to see him just make this movie and just to see him just give off his best performance I have ever seen from this guy and give off the best performance of Wolverine I have ever seen to where it's so emotional at some points to where he gives off very emotional heartbeats to where you really kind of forget this is an actor portraying Wolverine because how well Hugh Jackman performs this character to where he really sells at him dying and aging and wanting to die and he's basically hating life at this point. Hugh Jackman just does a beautiful job of just doing that, especially when you see interviews of him, especially recently with Ryan and how much of a nice guy he seems. But when you watch this movie and you see him become such an asshole or just a very depressing person, when you see that, you just know he is a fantastic actor in this movie. I can't put to words how happy I am to see him pull off one last performance as Wolverine at the time. This was the perfect performance for him to go out with. I also really like the inclusion of X-23, aka Laura, who is Wolverine's daughter, where at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, I believe they showed they had his blood at the end. They had like a little still shot of it, I believe, where it's like a very quick glimpse of where it says Weapon X on it. It has his blood in it, and to where they basically made a clone baby. They made a Wolverine daughter, basically, and Wolverine didn't even know it. So I don't know how that works, but hey, X-Men universe. Do whatever you want now. And her actress is fucking fantastic to where she literally kills it. Get it? She kills it as Wolverine's daughter and she kills it as Laura. She does an amazing job in it. I won't spoil anything because some people might know. Some people know it's going to happen. But I won't spoil after what happened. But Laura in this movie was a great inclusion to where I loved what she was able to do. She was such a badass to where, like, her actress does a good job of just showing her emotions physically. She doesn't even have to say a word, and you just see her emotions from her face and from her body language, basically. Her performance is great because she doesn't talk at all throughout this entire movie. She doesn't talk till, like, maybe the last 45-ish minutes left of the movie. And the part to where she does start talking between Wolverine and Laura, that whole sequence, that whole scene where she finally starts to talk, that was a very well directed scene, a very well performed scene as well. Laura is just great, and her actress, or I forget her name, had great chemistry with Hugh Jackman, to where they have seen that they really got along and behind the scenes. So those two's chemistry was also just off the charts. But yeah, the inclusion of Laura was just fucking awesome. I like how this movie really felt like a Last of Us like story. And I have said before, The Last of Us is my favorite video game of all time. I fucking love that movie. Not movie. I love that fucking video game. It is one of my favorite things of media ever. I fucking adore that game. I will die on that hilltop saying it's my favorite video game of all time. Nevertheless, I love how the story takes kind of ideas from that story and it kind of and to where you could mistaken that maybe they weren't trying to go for that, but if they were trying to go for that, they did a fucking amazing job to where you kind of tell that they kind of took ideas from The Last of Us to where you can tell by that because the story of Logan trying to take this girl who he has never met before, didn't even know she existed, and trying to take her to North Dakota or South Dakota. I believe it was North Dakota. And he's trying to take her to North Dakota, knowing that there's some sort of like mutant base to where all these young mutants are there, and they're kind of hiding out there from the villains of this movie. They're hiding out there. There's a rumor about it, and it's from and from the comic. There's like coordinations or something on there, but Logan believes it's stupid, kind of like Joel does. He doesn't believe in like the cure, but Logan doesn't believe that the space is real. So he does it nevertheless. And then as the journey goes along, they kind of like each other a bit more. They start to understand each other more. They kind of start to slowly build up that father and daughter like resemblance in a way to where they slowly start to build up that relationship. Just like The Last of Us, because Joel and Ellie, who have never met each other before, they slowly throughout the story have this bond of a father and a daughter like relationship to where Joel lost his daughter and he found a new daughter to where in this story Logan kind of has a second chance to redeem himself with this little girl and with Laura. In a way, he can redeem himself in helping her, and to where at the very end, he doesn't want the money because he realizes is that this is his daughter, and he did this for her and not for the money at the very end of the movie. And unfortunately, when Wolverine dies at the end of the movie, and when you hear Laura say "Daddy," that fucking broke my heart, dude. That fucking made me cry like a little baby waking up in the middle of the night. That fucking hurt me. And I love that so much that it's like The Last of Us. And I guarantee you, if you ask any Last of Us fan and even a Marvel fan, if this resembles The Last of Us in any way, I guarantee you everybody is going to say yes. You know, and now that I'm thinking about the movie a little bit more, it's kind of weird that they didn't kind of give us an explanation of whatever happened to the mutants, because I'm thinking about that as like redeem himself from like after not being able to save his friends or any of the X-Men because they're all dead. But it's just like, well, what the fuck even happened to them? It's like they don't give an explanation on that. That's weird that I think about it. It's just like, okay, all your heroes are dead and roll the film. Another great performance by another great actor who was supposed to be his final portrayal of this character, Patrick Stewart as Professor X in this movie, by far his best performance. I do not care what you say, it was by far his best performance, to where it's very emotional from beginning to end, to where he's getting very old, to where like when he has seizures, like in the area he is in, it kind of like slows down time or whatever, kind of freezes the world, and people are like running out of breath and slowly dying, so he has to take like Caesar pills, and he has to get like injections and all that. His performance was so emotional, especially the scene before he died. That fucking broke me as well because when he thinks he's talking to Logan, but it's really the X-24, and he's standing there and he's kind of talking about life. He goes, this is by far the most perfect night I have had in years," and he's talking about how he didn't deserve it and how he slowly kind of understand why Logan kind of understands him more in a way, to where he's slowly understanding him, and he slowly is slowly understanding Logan and starting to realize why Logan might not like him at this point, and he's starting to become Logan in a way, is what he kind of gets at. And that's so emotional because he's not talking to the real Logan. And when X-24 kills him, it's just like, dude, that fucking breaks my heart. I have a very sensitive heart when it comes to emotional scenes in this movie, because I every time I watch this fucking movie, I keep crying. I don't know why. I cry every single fucking time. But Patrick Stewart's performance as like this very older Professor X, and as this very wiser, I guess, but at the same time he thinks that he still has his powers, but everyone around him just thinks he's older and that he should have lost them by now, but because of all the mutants have just disappeared. But I just thought he was just great, and the bickering back and forth between Logan and Professor X was just great with Patrick Stewart. He just did a great fucking job in this movie, to where when he died as well, I broke down in tears. I'm not afraid to admit it, that where I cried like a little baby when when he just fucking died. And when Patrick Stewart unfortunately passes away one day, that's gonna really break my heart. Now, since I mentioned X-24, maybe we should talk about him. X-24, where I believe he's the real villain of the movie. Yeah, you got the one guy with the little magnetic arm, and you got like this the scientist or doctor who seems to have been the guy who kind of ruled over these kids and tried to turn them into weapons. But then they kind of made a clone of Logan in a way, to where they also had his blood. They kind of created a clone of him, to where they called him X-24 because, well, Laura's X-23, and she's the daughter of Logan, and he is such an awesome villain, but he doesn't really do much, to where he's brilliantly also played by Hugh Jackman, which I thought they thought was kind of brilliant to do, because like in a way they don't really talk about this and they don't kind of really hint at it. But what I got out of it is that X-24 is what Logan probably would have become if he never joined the X-Men. If he never joined the X-Men, if he never became the way he was, that's who he probably would have ended up being. That's who he probably would have ended up becoming, and this monster who's controlled by the government, basically. That's what I kind of got out of it. But I love how Logan, who's the OG Wolverine, who's played by Hugh Jackman, to where he's older and slower, can't really get the claws out of his fists anymore because he's aging. The adamantium in his body is poisoning him, to where we don't really get to see that badass side of Wolverine. We get to see the more older and emotional Wolverine, which I do like. But X-24, we get to see all the badass shit of Wolverine that we like, and I love that. That is what, if you want to see a badass Logan, X-24 comes in and he basically does that. And he's just a great villain. He's so badass. He's so monstrous in the contact lenses they look like they gave Hugh Jackman to make him look like a different Wolverine. Like the contact lenses is for some reason makes him creepier. Like I don't know why, but something about X-24 just leaves me on the edge of my seat, and it also just makes me look and I'm like, he is fucking terrifying, to where I do not want to be alone with him because he is, ugh, he just gives on my nerves. And I also thought the action in this movie was just great, especially the scene to where they're escaping from that little town that they're living in. And the one thing that I really loved about the action in this movie was the final end of the movie, to where all the mutants are running towards the border, and but all the villains and these soldiers are kind of chasing after them or trying to take them back. And then that's when we get to see Hugh Jackman, the original Wolverine, just let loose and just fuck people up. That was just so awesome to see one last time, to where it just had a huge smile on my face, to where he like takes like this shit ton of like green serum or whatever that gives him back his powers for like a little bit of time before it kills him at the end, because you're supposed to take like small doses or it will kill you. But he knows he's gonna die, so he just takes all of it and he just goes fucking beast mode, dude. This guy did not care, to where we didn't get to see much of that version, but when we finally got to see it, it was just so fucking awesome. I love that. But other than that, all the other action was great, especially that little small scene like in the motel, to where like time was like frozen. That was a very very shot sequence, to where Wolverine was just like kind of just stabbing the wall to slowly get to Charles, and he was just stabbing his people on the way there. That was just awesome. Action wise, it delivered. All in all, guys, I do not have a single negative for this movie, or let alone any mixed aspects. I fucking love Logan. This is my favorite X-Men movie. This is my favorite Wolverine movie. This is just one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, let alone one of my favorite movies of all time, period. I fucking love Logan. It is one of my favorite movies of all time, and if this was the final time, which at the time it was the final time we saw Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, I would have been fine with that. And I'm glad to see that that Hugh Jackman is coming back again. But if they had just left it with this, I would have been completely fine with that. And I'm glad that Deadpool Wolverine isn't going to ruin this movie, because if it did, I would have been a little angry. But thankfully, they're not going to do that. So what do you guys think about Logan? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you think this was a perfect conclusion to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, or do you think this wasn't a very good conclusion to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine? What do you guys think about this movie? And we shall talk about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you like this video, like it. If you love it, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, I will see you all next time.